these are the notes for 4C, solving by substitution. So, solving a nonlinear systems of equations means we have a quadratic equation, the top one, and a linear equation, the bottom one. So here we're going to solve the systems of equations. So for solving both equations, there's going to be one or two solutions for this. You might have done this in Algebra 1. Your first goal, easiest way to do this is to solve for y in each equation. These are already solved for. In the top equation, y equals x squared minus 5x plus 7. In the bottom equation, we have y equals 2x plus 1. Since y equals both of them, you can just set them both equal to each other. Or you could think of it as you're substituting one of the what y equals in for the other. So substituting 2x plus 1 in for y. And you're left with an equation. We need to solve this equation. So you kind of look at the equation and think, is it linear? Is there a quadratic? If it's quadratic, you got to think there's going to be a quadratic formula most likely involved, or maybe by factoring we could solve it. I see a quadratic square, so I'm going to want to move all the terms to one side to get all like terms together. Your goal is to make the quadratic equation equal to 0, which then will make it easier to solve for. For this equation here, you can use the quadratic formula, or you could use factoring, or you could solve using the graph. I'm going to factor this. So A is 1, C is 6. So we have two numbers that multiply to 6. They'll add up to the B, negative 7. So you think about what two numbers can multiply to 6 that add to negative 7. So we have negative 6 and negative 1. So it's negative 6 and 1. Negative 6 times negative 1 is positive 6. Negative 6 plus negative 1 is negative 7. So we're going to split up the B term into negative 6x minus 1x plus 6. And we're going to group the first two terms and the last two terms together and look for your greatest common factor of each grouping. So between x squared and 6x, the greatest common factor is x. Divide each term by x. Second term, there are two terms. We have negative 1 and positive 6. The greatest common factor is 1. When the first term is negative, take a negative 1. Divide each term by negative 1. What's in parentheses has to be exactly the same. It is. That's one of your factors. Your other factor comes from the greatest common factors that you pulled out of each grouping. So x minus 1. We solve this. We get it. Set each factor equal to 0. And solve. You get x equals negative 6. X equals 1. This is just part of our solution, not all of it. Now we have to take these x equals negative 6 and x equals 1 and substitute them back into the original equation. Either one of the equations. So we've said x equals 1. We're going to substitute it into either equation. The bottom equation looks best, the linear. I'm going to substitute 1 in for x. And it's solved. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. One of my solutions is 1, 3. The other solution was at negative 6, so now we're going to say that x equals negative 6. We're going to substitute that in again to either equation. So substitute negative 6 in. So we get negative 12 plus 1 is negative 11. So your other solution is at negative 6, negative 11. For example 2, we have, again, two equations. Now we have two quadratic equations. You can see they both have squares, squared terms. Again, you can solve both terms, or both equations for y, or you actually solve one of them for y. Y equals x squared plus 8x plus 16. And you can just substitute that in for y if you'd like. A lot of times it's easier to just substitute it in. So I'm going to take the y here and substitute x squared plus 8x plus 16 in for the y. So where the y is, I'm going to put x squared plus 8x plus 16. And then I'm going to rewrite all the rest of the equation. minus x squared, subtract x equals negative 12. And I put parentheses around what I substituted in. If parentheses are not needed, there's no subtraction on the outside, no negative, no square, no multiplication. So we can drop the parentheses and look at what we have. We need like terms. There are like terms. We have x minus, or x squared minus x squared. Those cancel out. We have 8x minus x is 7x. And we have 16 and negative 12. Subtract 16 to get like terms together. And now we're left with a simple one-step equation. X is going to equal negative 4. Now we take this x equals negative 4 and substitute it into one of the original equations. Does not matter which one, pick the one you like. I like the bottom one better, just because it has y equals, and that's what we need to find. We already have the x coordinate of the solution, we need the y. Substitute negative 4 in. Anytime I substitute, I make sure to put it in parentheses. That way it helps me not forget that a negative squared is positive. So of course, negative 4 squared is 16. 8 times negative 4 is negative 32 plus 16. Simplify this down, and you get y that equals 0. So my x value, we only have one solution here, is at negative 4, and y value is 0. So that's your solution, and that is 4C.